Mom begged, "You can't leave your sister." 6 hours later, I boarded a plane to Singapore. Their voicemails flooded my inbox, but I blocked them all. The text came through at 10:30 on a Thursday morning. I was at my desk, halfway through a mediocre turkey wrap, when my phone lit up with Lauren's message. "Hey sis, huge news. I'm finally doing it. Quitting the boutique tomorrow. Marcus and I talked, and I need time to explore my options, figure out what I'm actually passionate about. You'll cover us while I sort things out, yeah? You've got that amazing job and no dependents, so it makes sense. We can move in next weekend." I read it 3 times. My heart rate climbed with each reading. My sister Lauren was 31, just 18 months younger than me. She'd spent the last 5 years working as a sales associate at an upscale clothing boutique, pulling in decent money with commissions. Marcus, her boyfriend of 3 years, was 34 and called himself a freelance photographer. Mostly he played video games and occasionally shot someone's wedding or headshots. They lived in a cramped studio his parents helped pay for. I set down my wrap. My hands were trembling. The sheer audacity was almost impressive. I typed back, "That's not my responsibility." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. "What do you mean? We're family. This is what family does." I didn't answer. Instead, I walked straight to my manager's office and asked if the Singapore position was still available. The one they'd been trying to fill for 8 weeks. The one with the substantial raise, comprehensive relocation package, and 3-year contract starting Monday. "You're interested?" Maria looked stunned. "You said international relocation was impossible for you." "I've reconsidered. I want it. I can sign today." 6 hours later, the contract hit my inbox. I signed it electronically at 6:34 p.m., sitting in my car in the parking garage. This time my hands were steady. Mom's text arrived at 6:41. "Olivia Marie Thompson, your sister just called me in tears. She says you're refusing to help her when she needs you most. How can you be so selfish? She's family. We take care of family. Call me immediately." I stared at the message. Guilt tried its familiar creep, the way it had my entire life. But something was different now. Something had finally broken. I called Mom. "Olivia, thank God. Listen, Lauren is really struggling. Mom, I'm moving to Singapore on Monday. I accepted a job transfer. I won't be available to help Lauren because I'll be living on the other side of the world." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. "You're what?" "Moving to Singapore. For at least 2 years, possibly longer." "You can't be serious. You can't just abandon your family when we need you." "Actually, I can. I already signed the contract." "This is about Lauren's text, isn't it?" "You're being petty and vindictive." Something inside me cracked open. Years of something I'd been holding back. "You want to know what's petty, Mom? Let me tell you about the last 14 years of my life." "Olivia, this isn't—" "No. You're going to listen. I was 17 when Dad died. Massive heart attack. Sudden and devastating. He was the parent who actually saw me, came to my swim meets, helped with my chemistry homework. Mom had always been more focused on Lauren, her baby, who needed more attention, more support, more everything. I was getting ready for school that morning when it happened. Dad had been drinking his coffee at the kitchen table, reading the sports section like he did every morning. He'd smiled at me, asked if I was ready for my English presentation. I'd said yes. He told me he was proud of me. 20 minutes later, Mom was screaming from their bedroom. The funeral was packed. Dad had been well-liked at his accounting firm, active in the community. People told stories about his kindness, his humor, his generosity. I stood there in a black dress borrowed from my friend Hannah, shaking hands with strangers, feeling completely hollow. Lauren couldn't make it through the service. She had a panic attack halfway through, and Mom had to take her out. I sat alone in that pew, listening to the minister talk about a man I'd never see again, and something inside me went very quiet and very still. After Dad died, everything changed. I was starting my senior year. Lauren was 15 and completely fell apart. I understood grief affected everyone differently. But Lauren got therapy, extended absences from school, Mom's constant hovering. I got expectations. You're so strong, Olivia. You're handling this so well. I need you to be strong for your sister. I didn't get to fall apart. I had to maintain my grades because I'd already started applying for scholarships. I had to get into college because we couldn't afford it otherwise. I had to work 25 hours a week at the pharmacy to help with bills, while Lauren got to focus on healing. I earned a full scholarship to Northwestern. Mom cried, but they weren't happy tears. It's so far away. How can you leave us right now? Lauren still needs you. I need you. Lauren actually threw things when I showed her my acceptance letter. Screamed that I was abandoning her, that I didn't care about family, that I was selfish for applying somewhere so far away. You could go to community college here, Mom said, her voice tight. Save money. Stay close where you're needed. But the scholarship covered everything. Tuition, room, board, books. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, and part of me knew if I didn't take it, I'd never escape the role they'd cast me in. I went anyway. It was the first selfish thing I'd ever done, and the guilt nearly destroyed me. My first month at Northwestern, I called home every day. Lauren refused to talk to me. Mom would get on the phone and sigh heavily, telling me how Lauren cried through dinner, locked herself in her room for hours, wasn't eating properly. She misses you so much, Mom would say. The implication was clear. This is your fault. I offered to come home on weekends. Mom said it would just make leaving harder. I offered video calls with Lauren. She refused that I sent care packages, long letters, funny cards. All went unanswered. By October, I was having panic attacks in my dorm room, convinced I'd made a terrible mistake. My roommate, a girl named Mia from Portland, finally sat me down. Your family is manipulating you, she said bluntly. Can't you see it? They want you to feel so guilty you'll drop out and come home. I defended them. Of course they weren't manipulating me. They were just grieving, struggling. But Mia's words planted a seed. During college, I worked 2 jobs while maintaining a 3.8 GPA. I called home 3 times a week. I flew back for every holiday, paying for plane tickets I couldn't afford. Lauren went to community college for 1 semester before dropping out to pursue her passion. When I graduated and landed my first real job, I started sending money home. Not because anyone asked directly, but because Mom would casually mention the water bill was high this month. Lauren needed new tires, the house needed repairs. My starting salary was $57,000 a year. It felt like a fortune after being broke in college. But after taxes, rent, student loans for the small amount not covered by scholarships, and the steady stream of money flowing home, I was barely making it. That I remember one particularly brutal month when I sent $700 to cover Lauren's car insurance after she'd let it lapse. That same week, my own car broke down and I needed $450 for repairs. I didn't have it. I had to borrow from Mia, who by then was working in Seattle but still my closest friend. This is insane, she told me over the phone. You're going into debt to fund your sister's irresponsibility. It's just temporary, I insisted, until she gets on her feet. Olivia, she's never going to get on her feet if you keep catching her every time she falls. I paid Mia back over 3 months, $50 at a time. Lauren moved out at 24 to live with her first serious boyfriend, Kyle. That lasted 7 months before he kicked her out for cheating. She moved back home. Mom called me sobbing about how heartbroken Lauren was, how she needed support. The call came at 2 in the morning. I'd been asleep, exhausted from a 15-hour workday. Mom was nearly hysterical. She won't stop crying. She won't eat. Olivia, I'm really worried about her. Can you come home this weekend? She needs to see you. She needs to know her family is here for her. I took a personal day on Friday, drove 4 hours home, spent the weekend listening to Lauren cry about Kyle and how he never appreciated her and how all men were terrible. She barely acknowledged me except to accept my sympathy. As I was leaving Sunday night, she asked if I could leave her some cash for gas and groceries. I gave her $170, every dollar I had in my wallet. Money I'd budgeted for groceries that week. I also sent $1,100 to cover Lauren's credit card debt from the relationship. Mom was thrilled when Lauren moved in with Marcus after 3 months. See? She's finally getting her life together. I'm so relieved. You must be too. I was genuine. I hoped Lauren had found happiness. But over the years, the calls started again. Could I help with Lauren's car payment just this once? Could I loan them money for rent? Could I cover their pet deposit when they got a dog? Each request came with assurances it was the last time they were getting back on track. I said yes every time. Last Christmas, I spent $900 on gifts for Lauren, Marcus, and Mom. I flew home for 4 days, spending another $700 on plane tickets. Lauren gave me a $16 candle from Target. Mom gave me a framed photo of Lauren and me from childhood, which I suspected had been in the attic for years. The candle still had the price sticker on the bottom. I found it later when I unpacked, tucked in my suitcase. I sat on my bed in my empty apartment, holding that stupid candle, and something inside me cracked. Not broke, but cracked, like a windshield before it shatters completely. I'd bought Lauren a professional camera lens she'd mentioned wanting. $320. On Christmas Eve, Lauren announced she was considering going back to school for aesthetics. It would cost $8,000. I'd spent hours picking out thoughtful gifts to show Marcus I cared, to show I was grateful to be part of the family. Mom got a spa day package, $290. The whole family was gathered in the living room. Mom, Lauren, Marcus, and Patricia, Uncle Tom, a couple cousins. Lauren announced it like it was exciting news, but her eyes were on me the entire time. That's great, I said. How are you planning to pay for it? The room went quiet. Lauren's smile faltered. Well, I was hoping. You've always been so supportive of my future, of investing in me. As if the money I'd given her over the years was some kind of dividend-paying mutual fund. I'll think about it, I said, and changed the subject. Mom pulled me aside later. You know you're in a better position to help. You don't have kids. You make good money. Lauren is really trying to better herself. I said I would consider it. I never did. Lauren never brought it up again, which told me how serious she actually was. But here's what I found out months later, from a cousin who felt bad keeping quiet. Lauren had already been accepted into the program. She'd been telling everyone for weeks that I was paying for it, bragging about her generous big sister who was funding her career change. When the tuition deadline passed and I hadn't sent money, she told everyone I'd backed out at the last minute, that I'd promised to help but then changed my mind, that I'd let her down, I'd been cast as the villain in a story I didn't even know I was in. 3 months ago, Lauren texted asking if I'd co-sign a loan for a new car. Hers was old, but functional. She just wanted something nicer. I said no. For the first time in my life, I said no. Lauren didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. When she finally did, she acted like nothing happened, but her texts had a cold edge. All of this came pouring out to Mom over the phone. 14 years of being the responsible one, the strong one, the one who put everyone else's comfort before her own existence. I've given everything to this family, I said, my voice eerily calm. I put myself through college. I worked myself to exhaustion. I sent money I didn't have. I put my own life on hold again and again. And you know what I realized today, Mom? Nobody has ever once asked what I need, what I want. Not once in 14 years. That's not fair, Olivia. We've always appreciated, have you? Because appreciation wouldn't demand more money. Appreciation would have asked how I was doing when Dad died instead of telling me to be strong for Lauren. Appreciation would have celebrated my achievements instead of making me feel guilty for having them. Mom's voice sharpened. Your father would be so disappointed in you right now. No, Mom. Dad would be proud I'm finally putting myself first. He's the one who taught me I was worth something. You're the one who taught me I was only valuable for what I could give everyone else. I hung up. My hands are shaking again, but this time from adrenaline, not anger. The next 3 days were chaos. Lauren called 17 times. I didn't answer. She left voicemails ranging from hurt to angry to desperate. How can you do this to me? I'm your sister. You're being a selfish bitch, and I hope you realize that. Please, Liv. Please talk to me. I'm scared, and I don't know what to do. I listened to each voicemail once, then deleted it. Some part of me needed to hear them, needed to understand what I was walking away from. In her last message, her voice was small and broken. Terrified, the old me would have crumbled, would have called back, apologized, found a compromise. The new me pressed delete and kept packing. Mom texted long paragraphs about family obligation, about how I was abandoning them, about how she'd raised me better than this. She tried guilt, anger, then bargaining. What if Lauren promises to get another job right away? What if she only stays with you for a few months? What if we all sit down and talk about this? Along with Mom's messages came texts from Lauren's friends, people I barely knew. Lauren had apparently rallied her troops, telling them her heartless sister was abandoning her in her time of need. How can you do this to Lauren? She's always talked about how close you two are. Family is supposed to be there for each other. This is really messed up. I hope you can live with yourself. I blocked every number I didn't recognize. My own friends told a different story. Amanda, who I'd known since college, texted, "Fucking finally! I'm so proud of you. Let me know if you need help packing." Mia called from Seattle. "Oh my God, you actually did it. You actually chose yourself." Olivia, "I'm legitimately emotional right now. This is the best thing you've ever done." My coworker Jennifer, who I'd gotten drinks with a few times, sent, "That's incredible. Let me know if you need any recommendations." My sister lived there for 3 years. The contrast was stark. People who genuinely cared about me were excited and supportive. People who saw me as a resource were angry and attacking. Friday afternoon, I got a Facebook message from Kyle, Lauren's ex from years ago. "Hey, I heard about what's going on, and I just wanted to say good for you. Lauren told everyone I was the bad guy when we broke up, but the truth is she was using me the whole time. Cheating on me, maxing out a credit card I stupidly added her to, then playing victim when I kicked her out. I'm guessing she's doing the same to you now. You're smart to get out. Good luck in Singapore." I stared at that message for a long time. Lauren had always portrayed herself as the victim in that relationship, the sweet girlfriend betrayed by her cruel boyfriend. I'd believed her because she was my sister. Family believes family. How much of what I believed about my family was actually true? How many stories had I accepted without question because it was easier than facing reality? I sent one group text to Mom and Lauren. "I'm moving to Singapore on Monday. This decision is final. I need space from both of you." Then I muted their numbers. My best friend Amanda came over Saturday to help pack. She'd known about my family situation for years and had gotten increasingly vocal about how they treated me. "I'm so fucking proud of you," she said, wrapping my dishes in newspaper. "Do you know how many times I've watched them bleed you dry? How many times I've bitten my tongue while you made excuses for them? Why didn't you say something? Would you have listened?" She was right. I wouldn't have. I'd been too deep in the pattern, too conditioned to believe being a good daughter and sister meant sacrificing everything. Sunday morning, I got an email from Mom. Subject line, "Please read important." The email was long. She'd clearly put time into it. It talked about how she'd been reflecting on our conversation, how maybe she'd put too much pressure on me over the years, how she wanted to understand my perspective. It was almost enough to make me reconsider, but then I got to the last paragraph. "That said, I really think you're making a huge mistake with this Singapore job. It's so far away. What if something happens to Lauren or me? What if we need you? I think you should reconsider. There will be other job opportunities, but you only have one family. Please think about what's really important here. Love, Mom. I deleted the email. Monday morning arrived. My apartment was empty except for the few suitcases I was taking with me. Everything else was in storage. I'd stay in corporate housing in Singapore until I found my own place. My phone rang as I was loading my car for the airport. A number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Olivia, it's Marcus. I almost hung up. What do you want? Listen, I know things are messed up right now, but you have to understand how hard this is for Lauren. She's been crying for days. She really thought you'd help us out. Did Lauren put you up to calling me? No, she's really upset and I'm worried about her. We were counting on you. You were counting on me funding your girlfriend's unemployment while she finds herself. Do you realize how insane that sounds? It's not like that. She just needs some time to figure out her next move. Then you support her. You're her boyfriend. Silence. My photography work is really inconsistent right now. And my parents said they'd cut me off if Lauren moved back in with me at their place. So your plan was to make me responsible for both of you. You don't have kids. You make good money. It's not like it would have been that hard for you. The entitlement was staggering. This conversation is over. Don't call me again. I hung up and blocked the number. The flight to Singapore was 19 hours with a layover in Tokyo. I spent most of it sleeping. Deep, dreamless sleep I hadn't experienced in years. My body knew what my mind was still processing. I was finally free. Singapore was overwhelming at first. The humidity, the crowds, the incredible mix of languages and cultures. My corporate apartment was small but modern, with a view of Marina Bay. My new office was sleek and professional. My colleagues were welcoming. The first week was a blur of orientation meetings, paperwork, adjusting to the time difference. I'd wake at 3 a.m, wide awake, my body insisting it was afternoon. I'd stumble to my apartment's tiny balcony and watch the city wake up. Lights flickering on in buildings across the bay. Everything here was different. The food, the weather, the pace of life. The MRT, Singapore subway system, was cleaner and more efficient than anything I'd seen in Chicago. People actually queued politely instead of shoving onto trains. The streets were spotless. There were rules for everything, and everyone followed them. I expected to feel lonely. Instead, I felt lighter. My first project was a regional marketing analysis for teams in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Sydney. My manager, Maria, was a sharp woman in her mid-40s who'd moved to Singapore from Taiwan 15 years earlier. During our first one-on-one, she studied me carefully. "You seem relieved to be here," she said. "Not excited. Relieved. Are you running from something or toward something?" I hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Both, I think." She nodded. "Good answer. Running away is fine as long as you're building something better. Just make sure you don't spend so much time running you forget to actually live." Sound advice. For the first 2 weeks, I kept my phone in airplane mode except for work emails. I knew I was avoiding the inevitable, but I needed time to adjust to my new life without the constant weight of home dragging me down. When I finally turned on my messaging apps, there were 148 texts from Mom and 97 from Lauren. I didn't read most of them. The preview text was enough. But there was also a message from my Aunt Julia, Dad's sister. We'd always gotten along, though she lived in Oregon, so I only saw her every few years. "Hey, Olivia. Your mom called me upset about you moving to Singapore. I told her it sounded like an amazing opportunity, and she should be proud. She didn't like that. Anyway, I wanted to say I'm happy for you. Your dad would be too. You're doing the right thing. Love you, kiddo." That message made me cry. The first real tears I'd shed through this whole ordeal. Work was incredible, challenging and engaging, exactly what I needed. My boss Maria was brilliant and supportive. My team was talented and collaborative. I was learning new systems, contributing to major projects, feeling genuinely valued for the first time in my career. One afternoon, about a month in, I stayed late to finish a presentation. Around 6:30, Maria stopped by my desk. "You're still here." "Just finishing the Hong Kong analysis." She pulled up a chair. "Can I tell you something? When we hired you, I looked at your resume and saw someone severely underpaid and underpromoted for your skill level. You'd been at your previous company 5 years with minimal advancement. That usually tells me one of two things. Either the employee is mediocre, or they're being taken advantage of. Your work told me it wasn't the first. I didn't know what to say. I'm telling you this because I see you doing it again. Staying late every night, volunteering for extra projects, working through lunch. You're excellent at your job. You don't have to prove anything. I just want to make sure I'm contributing. You're contributing plenty during business hours. Go home, Olivia. Actually live in the city you moved to. Otherwise, what was the point of coming here?" She wasn't wrong. I'd been replacing one form of self-sacrifice with another. I started making friends. Real friends who didn't know my history and saw me as just Olivia. Not the responsible sister. Not the ATM daughter. I explored hawker centers and tried every type of food I could find. I visited gardens by the bay and Sentosa Island. I took a weekend trip to Bali. My cubicle neighbor, Daniel from Australia, invited me to a board game night his wife hosted on Fridays. That's where I met Priya, who worked in finance and had a dry, cutting sense of humor that made me laugh until my stomach hurt. We bonded over difficult mothers and became fast friends. Priya introduced me to more people. Her rock climbing group, her book club, her husband's cricket team, always looking for people to come watch and drink beer. Suddenly, my calendar was full of actual social events with people who invited me because they enjoyed my company, not because they needed something from me. Was genuinely, surprisingly happy. 6 weeks into my new life, I finally unblocked Mom and Lauren. The messages that flooded in were a journey. The first few weeks had been anger and guilt. Then came the bargaining phase. Promises things would be different if I just came home. Then confusion about why I wasn't responding. Finally, radio silence for the past 3 weeks. I texted the family group chat, which included Mom, Lauren, and a few aunts and uncles. "Hi, everyone. I wanted to let you know I'm settled in Singapore and doing well. This has been an incredible opportunity, and I'm really happy with my decision. I need everyone to understand I'm no longer available for financial support. I'm not a backup plan or a safety net. I love you all, but I need to focus on my own life now. I hope you can respect that." The responses were mixed. Aunt Julia sent a heart emoji. Uncle Tom, Dad's brother, wrote, "Good for you, kiddo." A couple cousins sent congratulations. Mom wrote, "I'm glad you're safe. I wish you'd answer when I call. We have a lot to talk about." Lauren didn't respond at all. 3 months in, Lauren sent an email. An actual email, not a text. "Olivia, I don't know what to say. I've been really angry at you. But Amanda told me something that made me think. She said I'd been taking advantage of you for years and didn't even realize it. I got defensive at first, but then I really thought about it. About all the times you helped me and how I never really appreciated it. Never even thanked you properly. I don't know if this matters now, but I got a job. 2 jobs, actually. I'm working at a different boutique and bartending 3 nights a week. Marcus and I broke up. He wasn't willing to work harder, and I realized I was dating someone who wanted to coast on other people's money, just like I was doing. I'm not asking you to forgive me or come back, but I wanted you to know I'm trying to do better. I'm sorry for how I treated you. You deserved better from me." I read the email 5 times. It felt genuine in a way Lauren's communication rarely did. Raw and honest. I responded, "Thanks for reaching out. I'm proud of you for taking those steps. I hope you keep it up. I'm not ready for regular communication yet, but I appreciate the apology. Take care of yourself. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was something. I'd slammed the door, but left a small crack. Mom was harder. She called once a month, usually around dinner time for me, which was early morning for her. The few times I answered, conversations were strained. She struggled to ask about my life without spiraling into her own problems or making me feel guilty for being away. After one particularly frustrating call where she spent 40 minutes complaining about how difficult it was managing everything alone, I said something I'd been holding back. Mom, I love you, but you need to hear this. You made me responsible for holding this family together when I was 17 years old. You put adult burdens on me while keeping Lauren a child. You taught me my worth was what I could provide, not who I was. That's why I left. I didn't leave to punish you. I left to save myself. She was quiet for a long time. I did the best I could after your father died. I know you did, but your best wasn't good for me. And I need you to acknowledge that instead of making me feel guilty for protecting myself. Another long pause. I'll try. This is hard for me, Olivia. It's been hard for me for 14 years, Mom. We hung up shortly after. She didn't call again for 5 weeks. Year 2 in Singapore brought promotions, new adventures. I started dating a software engineer named Ryan from Chicago. We bonded over being American expats and our shared love of terrible action movies. It wasn't serious, but it was fun, healthy, uncomplicated. I traveled to Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia. I discovered I loved rock climbing at an indoor gym. I made close friends. I stopped thinking about home every day, not because I'd forgotten, but because I'd built a life that didn't revolve around other people's needs. Lauren sent occasional updates via email. She'd been promoted to assistant manager at the boutique. She was dating a new guy, a teacher who seemed stable. She was paying off her credit card debt. The emails were short but consistent. I appreciated them more than long apologies would have meant. Mom and I talked every other month. The conversations were still awkward, but less fraught. She was learning to ask about my life without immediately pivoting to her struggles. Progress, even if slow. Then came the call that changed everything. 2 years and 4 months after I'd left. Mom called on a Tuesday, which was unusual. Her voice was shaky. Olivia, I need to tell you something. I went to the doctor last week. They found something on my mammogram. It's breast cancer. Stage 2. My stomach dropped. What's the treatment plan? Lumpectomy, followed by radiation. They're optimistic about prognosis, but I'm scared, honey. I'm really scared. For the first time in years, she sounded like she actually needed me. Not my money. Not my sacrifice. Just me. I'm here, Mom. I can't fly home right now because of work, but I'm here. We'll get through this. Over the next months, we talked weekly about her fears, her treatment, her life. She told me stories about Dad I'd never heard. She asked about my work, my friends, my relationship with Ryan. She apologized. I was so overwhelmed after your father died. Lauren was falling apart, and you seemed so strong. I leaned on you because you were capable, but I never thought about whether you should have to. I took your strength for granted. Turned you into a parent when you should have just been my daughter. I'm sorry. I cried during that conversation, the kind of crying that releases years of pain. Thank you for saying that, Mom. Lauren stepped up during Mom's treatment. She drove her to appointments, stayed with her after surgery, managed medications. She sent me updates and photos. In one picture, she and Mom were making silly faces in the hospital. Mom in a gown, Lauren in a ridiculous wig from the gift shop. Trying to keep spirits up, Lauren texted. We miss you, though. You're doing great, I responded. I'm proud of you. Mom's treatment was successful. By month 6, her scans were clear. The relief was overwhelming. I flew home for a week during her final radiation treatment. It was strange being back in Chicago, in my childhood home. Everything felt smaller somehow. Lauren picked me up from the airport. She looked different, more mature, more grounded. She hugged me tight and held on longer than I expected. I really missed you, Liv. I missed you too. The week was surprisingly good. We didn't fall back into old patterns. Lauren didn't ask for anything but my time. Mom didn't make me feel guilty about being away. We cooked together, watched movies, looked through old photo albums. On my last night, we sat in the backyard with wine. Photo albums spread around us. I almost destroyed this family, Mom said quietly. When you left, I was so angry. I couldn't understand why you'd abandon us. But you didn't abandon us. You saved yourself. And watching Lauren grow up over these months, become more responsible and capable, I realized I'd been enabling her for years. Enabling both of us. We needed you to leave. I didn't want to hurt you, I said. I know. But you had to hurt us to help us. That's a terrible position to put someone in. Lauren wiped her eyes. I was so mad at you for leaving. I felt abandoned. But Amanda was right. I treated you like a bank account, not a sister. I didn't even see you as a real person with your own needs. You were just there to help me. I'm ashamed of that now. You've grown up a lot, I told her. I had to. You weren't there to catch me anymore. It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had as a family. I flew back to Singapore the next day. Ryan picked me up at the airport. How was it? He asked. Healing, I said. Actually healing. 3 years into my contract, my company offered me a permanent position with another significant raise. I signed without hesitation. Singapore was home now. Lauren came to visit 6 months later, paying her own way. I get why you stayed, she said on her last night. This place is amazing. And you're different here. Lighter. She stayed a week and we did all the tourist things. She marveled at gardens by the bay, ate her way through Chinatown, took 1,000 photos. I am who I was meant to be, I said. I like this version of you. I'm sorry it took losing you to find her. You didn't lose me. We just needed distance to find a better way to be sisters. We hugged at the airport. This time when we said goodbye, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a new chapter. Mom never visited. International travel was hard for her, and I understood. For years after leaving, I was promoted to regional director. We had monthly video calls. The conversations were good, real. She told me about her book club, her garden. I told her about work promotions and weekend trips. At 35, I was managing teams across 3 countries, making more money than I'd ever imagined. I had friends who felt like family, a life I'd built entirely on my own terms. Sometimes I thought about Lauren's text, the one that changed everything. The entitled assumption I'd give up my life for hers without question. The expectation so deeply ingrained in our family dynamic, she hadn't even considered I might say no. I didn't regret what I'd done. Not for a second. Setting that boundary, making that choice, signing that contract had been the hardest and best decision of my life. My family had accused me of being selfish, of abandoning them in their hour of need. But I hadn't abandoned anyone. I'd finally stopped abandoning myself. Because you can't save people who won't save themselves, and you can't sacrifice yourself for someone else's growth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let people face the consequences of their actions. Lauren needed to learn responsibility. Mom needed to learn that love isn't the same as enabling. And I needed to learn that my worth, my dreams, my happiness mattered just as much as anyone else's. The boundaries I set weren't walls. They were bridges to healthier relationships, even if it meant everything had to fall apart first before it could be rebuilt properly. Lauren sent me a photo last month. She was standing in front of her own boutique, keys in hand. She'd saved for 3 years and bought it outright. Did it myself, she wrote. No one's money but mine. I wish you were here to celebrate. I'm so proud of you, I replied, and I meant it with everything in me. That night, I stood on my balcony overlooking the Singapore skyline. The lights of the city spread out like stars below me. My phone buzzed with messages from friends making weekend plans. Ryan was coming over later with Thai takeout. Priya wanted to know if I was free for climbing on Saturday. My life was full, not with obligation or guilt or sacrifice, but with joy and choice and the kind of freedom that comes from finally putting yourself first. Somewhere across the world, my family was learning to stand on their own. They were learning to be whole without using me as a crutch. And it had taken an ocean between us to make it possible. I didn't resent them anymore. I didn't even feel angry.